Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Just Two Dads with my co-host, Mr. Shawn Francis. I am Brian Altunian. And today, on International Women's Day, in the Women's History Month of March, we are joined by a phenomenal woman entrepreneur, leader, CEO, COO. She kind of does everything for her company. It's a great day to be having this conversation with our guest, Ms. Larkin O'Leary. We're going to get into it in just a second. So hang on, stay tuned for another episode of Just Two Dads. Oh, no, hit the wrong button. We'll be Hey, it's live, right? So we don't edit, so that'll be fun. Anyways, hello, everybody. Because life as a parent with a child with special needs, there's always something being thrown at you that you don't expect. This is why we do this live. Sometimes I hit the wrong button. We're going to go with it today. Anyways, it just sort of sets the energy and the tone for the day. I am Brian Altunian, along with my partner in Thrive, my friend, Mr. Shawn Francis. And this is episode number 127 of our Just Two Dads podcast. We started this a couple of years ago in an effort to just have a conversation and talk to people that we found amazing warriors for the special needs community. And what started out as just a casual conversation between two dad parents has turned into a 2.5 year experience. And it has been an amazing process to be a part of as we share with the great things that folks are doing to support our community. I was on a IG Live earlier today, and the conversation was around, the fact that there are warriors who have children or have some family member of the special needs community, and they've taken their situation and they've converted that into supporting the special needs community. And then there are those who are also warriors who don't have that experience but have expressed an interest, a desire to take what they've viewed and become a tremendous support for the special needs community. So our podcast is always dedicated to those folks who are doing incredible things for our community to create bonds on an international level. And we wanted to make sure that we highlighted folks. So first of all, thank you for joining us live on Facebook. We appreciate it. Put comments in there. We'll throw some comments up on the screen. If you're catching us after the fact on our YouTube channel, Just Two Dads, thank you. Please hit like and subscribe so we can, share this with your friends. So we can boost our algorithms and get a broader audience, because more people should find out and should know about what these amazing folks are doing. If you're catching us on podcast outlets everywhere and you want to reach out to us, you can email us at wearejusttwodads@gmail.com. That's one word, wearejusttwodads@gmail.com. And then finally, to our family down in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I say family because I've adopted them as family. They're really Shawn's family that have adopted me, I think, in the U.S. Virgin Islands under WS Radio. Thank you for joining us. And again, please reach out to us if you have any comments or questions, or if there's a subject that you'd like us to cover. Shawn Hall, our producer, I'm pointing to Hawaii. I'm pointing west to Hawaii. Shawn Hall, our producer, does an amazing job at providing our graphics and our support and really kind of keeps us on track. He's the guy who keeps us timed. So thank you, Shawn. And Billy Footwear, one of our sponsors of our show. Billy Footwear is an amazing organization with such an incredible story. The founder story. We encourage everybody to go to Billy Footwear and see his story and learn about them. They've just sold over their millionth pair of shoes, adaptive footwear for folks who need support in the basics of putting their shoes on. So that's our introduction. Thank you all for joining us. We're excited to be here today. We're going to get into this conversation with the lovely, with it's a resistance, Larkin, to not say it in the Irish accent, Larkin O'Leary. But because we joked about it when we say Larkin O'Leary, it sounds like we're like pirates. But it's anyway. I'm sure we'll get into that at some point. But before we get into specifically, I'm going to throw it over to Shawn. Say hello to Shawn, and then Shawn's going to do an introduction to our guests. So, Shawn, how are you, my friend?
Yes, I am doing great. I'll make it short and brief as much as I possibly can. I keep having these examples of how what we do is geared towards those who are members of the special needs community or someone that's a parent or caregiver to someone with special needs. Truth of the matter is, we're all trying to make sure that we do what we can to make the world a better place, and start with making ourselves as the best possible person that we can be. And I found myself in the last 24 to 48 hours confronting a lot of the limitations that I've put on myself because of my own self-doubt and things of that nature, which everybody has some of. And I think that what took place at the beginning of the show is such an indication there, because you were like, oh, I hit the wrong button. And we have such a tendency to let people know, here's what I did wrong, where I messed up. If you never said that, especially those that are catching the show from an audio standpoint on Apple Podcast, Google, Stitcher, or anything like that's not looking at the video portion, they would never know. So I'm saying to you, as I say to myself and to those within the sound of my voice, don't worry about what you're doing wrong. Focus on what you're doing right. And when you speak and focus on things that are being done right, that is none other than our guest here today. When most of us have a child that is faced with a disability or a diagnosis, right away we go into parent and warrior mode. You're going to be there for your child because you have to take that to another level, to be an advocate and serve others, and then turn that into a business, which gives you control of your time to be free to serve others, including your family, is something that is tremendous. So take notes and listen today, because our guest is someone who has done just that and has so much to add. And without any further delay, welcome to Just Two Dads, Larkin O'Leary.
Well, thank you. It's so nice to be here. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you two.
As are we.
We are too.
Larkin, you're a modest but confident and loving person. So I'm sure that when I tell you that we see you as a hero, you're going to say, that's not who I am. I'm just a mom, and I decided to try and help other people as well. Yeah. But hero you are, and all heroes have powers, and all the superpowers of every hero comes from their origin. So let's start with, with that. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, because how you're raised and who raises you, being your family and your community, has everything to do with how you respond to the diagnosis of a child and how you turn that into your organization known as the Common Ground Society.
Yeah. So I'm born and raised Sonoma County, Northern California. And I have a great family. I raised by my parents and my brother, and went away to Chico to become a teacher. And, the reason I did that was because I had a hard time in school. I may or may not been on, principal speed dial, like Mr. Burt, and would just be like, hey, Jim and Terry. And they'd be like, all right, we're on our way. Right. I had a hard time in school in the beginning. And I had a teacher in 4th grade who actually took the time to get to know me. She created a connection with me. And she told me I needed to get some tutoring to kind of help me out, which was what was going on, right? I now believe that I have ADHD, which is what has caused my struggles in school and just life in general. But she, what's that?
I'm sorry, I said great, but not great that you have ADHD. What I was great. Well, great that you got a diagnosis, but my question was going to be, what were your struggles? Were they academic? Were they disciplinary? Because when I talk about my doubts, it's funny, I had a conversation with my wife 20 minutes ago about it, where I'm realizing these things about myself.
Yeah.
And the show's about you, not about me, but just that, when people kids are brutally honest, and when some kids would laugh if I didn't know the answer to something, and I'm struggling with stuff.
Yeah.
There's more of an effect on that today with me than I realize, but that's on me, not on the kids that laugh, because I have to take responsibility for changing that. But and I feel like teachers I had helped, but great props to the teacher that recognized you and built a relationship with you. And let's make sure we give that teacher a shout out. What was that teacher's name?
Yeah, Nancy Fisher. So she actually passed away my 6th grade year. She had cancer, and I got to see her before she did. And I remember going in and talking to her and saying, like, I want to do what you did for me, for other kids. She totally changed the trajectory of, my world. And so from 4th grade on, from 4th grade on, really, when she created that connection with me and helped me to be a better student, a better human, I dedicated my life to kids, and I just love kids and educating them and creating those connections with them. That's always been my thing, is connecting. And I was
Love
the
that.
teacher that would have lunch with the kids, and my statement now with Common Ground Society is it's a connection is key to inclusion, because if we're not connected, it's hard to understand and be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes or heart.
Sure. That's beautiful. Connection is the key to inclusion.
It is.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. So then you decided to was it at that time to be a teacher at that young age? Was that your goal?
Yeah. Yep. I started babysitting, and then I was always like my high school things that I did was going into classes and being like a classroom teacher helper. And I went to Chico State and I graduated in 4 years. That's right. And I still had fun too. I knew what I wanted to do, right? Because it was like in me. And I came back home to be a teacher, and that's what I did.
My daughter, who we have featured on this show, and she had, learning disabilities and some challenges in school as well. The one thing that she always said she always wanted to do was become a teacher, because, she was struggling and she was having, having challenges as well. And she had some teachers who were amazingly giving, like your teacher was, and that she was inspired. And today she is teaching. She's in the state of New York, and she's,
Awesome.
yeah. So she is teaching, finishing up her degree, something her neurologist said she would never do, by the way. One of the many list of things that she would never do.
Right.
And so I get that, right? Where you get inspired. I was inspired by a teacher. I love teaching. I would love to be a teacher at some level.
Yeah.
For those of us who are inspired. So how wonderful for you that you did that. And so then how did that progress?
I was just going to say, you're the second person that we've had on here who had a teacher that changed their life, led them to their life's work, which has them here on the show, who the teacher passed away. In your case now, you got to give your teacher her flowers while she was still here to smell them. So that's the other note, to make sure that if there's anybody in your life worthy of flowers, make sure you give them to them while they're here to smell them.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's a good point.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So then progressing. So did you teach for a while? Did you actually?
Yeah. I taught for about 16 years before I ended up having to resign. So my husband and I met teaching. We actually went to high school together because, Sonoma County, but we went to high school together. He's a couple years older than me. And then we started teaching at the same time together at the same school. Don't tell the principal. And we got married, and he moved to a different school, and then I moved to a different school. I started teaching 7th and 8th grade. I was teaching 3rd grade and then 5th grade. And then I moved to 7th and 8th grade. And then we had James. And James was unexpectedly born with Down syndrome. He had a heart defect, and he had hearing loss, and just, it was kind of like the 1-2 punch of all the things. He was born. They told me to pull back my shirt and get ready for some skin to skin, but he let out one cry, and that was it. And they rushed him off to the NICU, and then they rushed him off by ambulance to San Francisco. Luckily, and also awkwardly, but luckily, the person who delivered me, I had his daughter in my class, and my husband had his daughter and son. And so the doctor worked real hard to get me a room in San Francisco. So I was also taken to San Francisco, thankfully, to be with him. Long story short, writing subplans from the PICU and the ER while my son was fighting for his life, it became too overwhelming. So I ended up having to resign. I took leave and then eventually resigned right before the pandemic. My district was beyond supportive of my attempts to claw at my job, but there was no way. So when my son's preschool asked us to come in and do a presentation for World Down Syndrome Day, I was like, teach kids? Yes, please.
Awesome.
So went in, and our local newspapers came and did a story because it was World Down Syndrome Day, which is March 21st, by the way. And all of my teacher friends saw it in the paper, asked us to come to their classrooms, too many classrooms. So we started whole school assemblies. And at this point, we've hit over 40,000 students in Sonoma County and surrounding counties. We've gone as far as Santa Cruz. We'll be going down to San Diego next week, which I'm excited about. And we also have done college and community events. So I speak to future teachers. We do teacher professional development. We do parent professional development, parent presentations. I always say anybody who will listen, we've even done our orthodontics office. But it's really just started this movement here in Sonoma County that has just been incredible to watch. I mean, our social media is fairly large, so a lot of our local businesses follow. And I mean, we've had several put in adult-sized changing tables, recognizing the need after us sharing about the importance of, accessible everything. So,
wow, incredible.
Yeah.
That's something else. Tell us, if you will, go back just a second. Tell me about the thought process, because most people arrive at the conclusion that I need to be there for my child and make some adjustments to work or something like that in a very gradual sense. Was it like that for you, or was it as quickly as it seemed? Because it seemed like you identified it pretty quickly on. Don't know if you had financial preparation. You were like, you know what? I don't care how financially prepared we are. Here's what I need to do, because you had a job that you loved.
Yeah.
You got your son that needs you, and you're like, well, the job's got to go. I got to make a choice here. Tell us about that thought process.
Yeah, I mean, luckily we live in California, right, where we have great support. My son, when I took leave initially, he had a G tube, and we had just finished a 40-day hospital stay. And my district, like for the years that I was working, they were amazing at getting days for me to continue to be paid. But it was like, I just felt like those days should go to other people, not just me. And so I couldn't rightfully continue doing that when my son kept being in the hospital. And then in the mid-year, I'd have to take 50 days off, So luckily I was able to access IHSS, protective supervision for him early on. And that is what has helped us to be able to continue this work. At this point, I mean, our nonprofit is twofold. We do the presentations. We also have like family support that we do. I was telling you, I just came back from a caregiver meetup, but we do moms meetups, dads meetups, family meetups, siblings meetups, Latinx family meetups, caregivers of teens and adults. We have got a bunch of things going on. We give hospital bags. This is just sort of all blown up in a way that I never imagined. I just wanted to, it's really selfish of me. I wanted to create a support system of people who got it for me. And it sort of turned into this over 750 people in our Facebook group that are local Sonoma County, just going through it and needing support.
Amazing.
That's fantastic. For those that might not know, it might seem obvious. Tell us exactly what a G tube is.
So a gastronomy tube, which goes straight into the stomach. So James didn't eat food by mouth. He had a strictured esophagus. So they took out part of his esophagus and sewed it back together again, and then he wouldn't eat. So we had to, in order for him to get nutrition, they had to put a tube right into his tummy, and he was tube fed for about a year and a half.
So it's essentially a feeding tube. Now, he had a variety of diagnoses. How far apart did these things come? Because from our experience is like, there's developmental delays. Something's not quite right. And by our, I mean my wife, because I was just, an idiot dude who hadn't had a child before. So thought that every single thing my kid did was cute and didn't quite pick up on it. But so when my wife was like, things aren't quite right, we dealt with what at the age of 3 was an autism diagnosis. You're talking about multiple diagnoses. Did they all come at once? How far apart were they?
Yeah. So James was born originally. When he was born, we knew he had the heart defect. So we knew he was going to have open heart surgery. And I kept noticing something was wrong about a month in. He was projectile vomiting, and people were like, oh, it's this, oh, it's that, oh, it's reflux. And I was like, this is not normal. Like, it's not normal. And we actually almost lost him after his open heart surgery because he started bubbling out his nose, and he ended up having a duodenal web. So 7 days after his open heart surgery, he had intestinal surgery.
Oh my gosh.
And then once that was all kind of fixed, I mean, in the middle of all that, we were doing hearing testing because he failed his newborn screening. But then I think at 6 months is when or 9 months is when we finally went in to get the tubes put in, and found, did the like sedated ABRs. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they're like hearing tests for babies when they're sleeping, to see what they're hearing and what they're not. And they look at the brain waves. So a lot of he's had 30 surgeries and procedures, and a lot of that happened within his first 5 years of life. I mean, the pandemic has been really great for him. We haven't been in the hospital. I think he had like 1 or 2 hospital stays, but they're very minor in comparison to what we had dealt with before.
How old is he now?
Hold on, I was just going to say, how old is he now?
He will be 9 on St. Patrick's Day.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow.
James O'Leary,
Wow.
born on St. Patrick's Day.
With a tiny little red tuft of hair. He had little red hair. I was like, you're my little leprechaun. He was adorable.
It's so funny. We talked off air as we were getting to know each other, and you told us about the tuft of red hair and everything. I don't know if everybody else is getting this, but I just went through this like series of emotions because I'm thinking of our biggest challenges as a family and as a husband and wife with Elijah, which are just so minuscule compared to what you guys have dealt with from a medical standpoint. And along this entire ride, the heart surgery, almost losing him and everything, and then what the pandemic has been like, the fact that he's approaching his 9th birthday. So there's all like these little rays of sunshine throughout the hurricane that you're telling us. I want to ask you something that I've never asked anyone before who's been a guest on the show. That has a parent, but when I ask you the question, you're going to go, because it seems like I set up like this big, huge thing, but I can't believe I've never done it before, which is why we always talk about raising consciousness. Mm-hmm. Tell us about James, because I was going to ask you, well, is he verbal? But tell us about him in terms of what he likes to do, what kind of person he is. I can't believe I've never asked that before of a guest.
Yeah, that seems like a good question. So James, he is very expressive, this child of mine. I get constant compliments on his eyebrows because he's just like, I don't know where he gets it. He is the kindest human. If he sees someone who is being left out or mistreated, like he will immediately run over to them and invite them to join him in whatever he's doing. If they're crying, if they're upset, are you okay? He does speak, but he is hard to understand. He uses sign language as well to help communicate. He also has an AAC device, which they're using more and more at school, which is helpful. We use it at home too, but it's harder because I understand all of his sign. So remembering to model that without my 3-year-old pterodactyl Tasmanian devil child coming and stealing the iPad and running with it, it's the whole situation. But he is the light of our lives. He is just, he walks into a room and he lights the place up. He's just such a cool kid. And I am just so lucky and grateful to be his mom.
Beautiful.
That's fantastic. Let me ask you something I just thought of. But I'm sorry, Brian, these things are just popping into my head.
Right.
Especially of late, I found myself doing battle between the fact that we can understand Elijah and the need for other people to understand him, because because he's verbal, but when he's asking for things, especially things that are routine, he'll run the words together really fast. And for the most part, it's like, I know what he's saying. When you're communicating with someone, all you're interested in is the fact that you can understand them, or maybe that, that they understand you. But as a parent, when you start thinking, Brian and I, we work in financial services, helping families make plans for the day when you're not here, the independence, all that kind of stuff. So I get to thinking, well, wait a minute. It's not enough that we understand them.
Right.
If it sounds like gibberish to somebody else, how do they get that? So do you find yourself with that battle, or do you just find, well, I'm satisfied? Because when you're in your old bubble, you're kind of protective too. Sometimes you have these moments where you're like, we don't need anybody else. We've got our favorite snacks. We got our shows, our iPad. We've got each other, and we'll just bundle up here and let the world go sailing right on by. And every now and
Right.
then you're like, well, no, we got to step out there every now and then too. And we need to prepare them to step out without us. So do you have that battle inside you also?
Absolutely. I mean, James is so social. All he wants to do is be with all the people. They call him the mayor of his school because he literally walks through the halls, kissing babies and shaking hands. And I understand that it's not COVID friendly, but it's basically true. I mean, everybody, and we've done our presentations at the school, so everyone knows who he is. And they accept him for who he is. And sometimes they can tell me even more than I understand what he's saying. But he just wants to communicate and be part of the world. And it's hard sometimes when I see the kids not understanding what he's saying and not knowing how to
Yeah.
make that connection, right? Because connection is key to inclusion. If they can't connect, so that is a challenge.
Yeah. And I get that lately because Elijah's just going through a phase now where he likes to point. You know, he'll get right in somebody's faces. Now he'll say, "May I have your name?" But he used to be like a cop. He'd be like, "Your name, your name," and then they give their name. He'd be like, "Middle name, last name," and then he'll repeat it and be like, "You can't get that close to people that ask them those things." But then sometimes when he's asking, most people 9 out of 10 are just like, "Oh," and they feel like somebody wants to know who I am. Oh my gosh, that touches me. But then there's other people that are like, "My name, dude. What do you need my name for, dude?" It's like, you know, they respond as though he's asking for a driver's license. Right. And when that happens, you're just there's part of you that just like breaks in the smallest way. They're not even being hard, but your heart breaks for like, I want my child to be understood. Here's what he's trying to tell you. He's trying to connect. And then sometimes, and then sometimes you're not taking the higher ground, which is my child wishes to connect with you. Other times it's, what's wrong with you? He's trying to connect with you. Aren't you human? You can't do that.
Yeah, it's real hard. I do find myself being a translator often. And sometimes it's funny when I become a translator and then people are like, yeah, no, I got it. Like, I don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, I don't know. It's just what I do. I can't even stop myself. And he really wants to be independent. You know, we go places like he'll run into the bathroom and shut the stall. And I'm like, I'm like the mom peeking in through the door, like, okay, is he doing it? Like, and it's that piece of parenthood. I recently posted about this. Like, how do you do that independence thing? How do I let him go into the bedroom with the kids and go do their, building of the forts or whatever without worrying that they're not going to understand what he's saying or needs?
And honestly, I mean, I think like all socialization, he just has a little bit more extreme, but we all have difficulty communicating. We all have that. It's all awkward for neurotypical folks as well, right? In a new setting. So the great thing about it is that, is that you, and I hear you, I would feel, a little bit like, but I did that with my neurotypical children too. Me too. So it is part of raising children. The best thing to do, they're going to have to figure it out along the way. And they do. I mean, that's the thing is that they do. Using my daughter as an example, she's challenges, interpersonal relationship challenges at times because how she processes things, it's a little bit different, but she navigates and has great relationships, and she's figured out how to, like we all do, how to accommodate for in areas where she may have some issues. She overcompensates in other areas. She's loving and sweet and huggy and she's empathetic and to an extreme. And so I get that challenge. We had that as well initially, but it's part of parenting. Now I was going to ask you, Larkin, so, and I'm sorry if I wasn't present when you were saying this. So is James your only child, or you have other children?
No, I have two. I have James is 8, he'll be 9, and June Bell is 3.
That's the 3-year-old who took my iPad from him. Got it.
Very 3, like extra super 3, going on 17. So there you go. That's where we're at over here in the O'Leary household.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a lot. Well, the great thing about it is that she's going to be a tremendous, advocate. She's going to be tremendous support. She's going to learn to be empathetic for others, tolerant for others, because she's seen it with her brother. So that's That's awesome.
And they are for one another. It's really cool to watch. Like, we'll go to a playground. If we've gone to the playground before and there's been someone who's, looked sideways at James, and June Bell says, "That's my Bubba." Whereas the same respect, like somebody pushes June Bell and James will, go over and push them, like they are like, they're just kids. Like they're kids, they're just kids. And it's so fun to watch. I mean, not all the time. I can do without the pushing and shoving.
Right.
I think that's something that we forget, that because the struggle, going back to the previous topic, is real with anyone, to
everyone.
give your kids fish versus teaching them to fish. It's
Right.
so, all the time. But at the same time, so as a result, we tend to forget that kids are just kids. We sometimes think nobody understands my situation. My child has a diagnosis, but those are things that all kids deal with. So let's jump into a little bit more of the meat and potatoes of the Common Ground Society, exactly what you guys do and how the heck you got it off the ground, because it really is to be commended. We want to talk about that, a bit more about what you do, and then lead up to your most recent milestone when you went to speak to some people someplace at some event. They, is it? I think it's TED. Is that I mean, just who does that? Come on.
I don't know. Honestly, people ask me that. People will like, I've had several people come up to me and ask me how we've gotten started, and truly, I don't know. I lead with my heart. I care about people deeply. I don't really know how things kind of got started. I mean, being a teacher and being in this community has what's gotten kind of our presentations and stuff off of the ground. Being a group, a local group that is like that's inclusive of all. So, we have parents who have kids with speech delays, physical delays, autism, Down syndrome, one of a kind, rare diagnoses, medical complexities, like all the different things, all the way to, it's just all the things. And so having a place where people can come and be a part of that, because we are all interconnected. We all have connections somewhere. And so, that's just kind of, I have an incredible support network of friends and family and new friends and new family that just keep saying yes and keep helping and supporting. And, I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know how we got here.
But
I just keep going.
You keep growing. So your organization is quite significant now.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
You do the presentations, and you're doing classes. Yes.
So we do. We're doing whole school assemblies. So we'll do I have different, because I've taught the different grade levels, I'm able to differentiate our presentations. So we do like a TK through second to ish grade, and then like a third through sixth grade, and then a middle to high school presentation. And then we have our parent presentation, and then we have our teacher presentation. We sort of modify them all. And really it's us being vulnerable and talking about overcoming our own ableism and understanding, continually working on ourselves. I am not a perfect person. I make mistakes all the time, and I learn from them. I try and learn from them. I try and be better. But that's kind of, the vision that we take is sharing our stories. Our vulnerable stories will help other people understand that I'm just like you. I never imagined this being my life. I had my life set out, right? I was going to be a teacher, and I was going to go back full-time teaching after I had my kids, and they're going to, whatever. But here we are. And so.
And you guys put on which is amazing. And to your point, right? We all make mistakes. Shawn makes a lot of mistakes all the time, but I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing.
Brian doesn't make any.
I'm pretty sure you're the one that pushed the wrong button. Just saying.
I don't know. We're gonna edit this out. Let me just hold on. We'll edit that part out. But so you guys put on a gala, right? You do fundraising through a gala. So when is there one coming up? What's the?
Yeah, we have a gala coming up April 29th. Super excited. It's our second annual gala. So if anybody we're still looking for in-kind donations and sponsors. But we're hoping to raise money to continue supporting our families. I mean, one of the biggest needs, and I'm sure you probably experienced this down there as well, is that support for families after the diagnosis, because what we're told, what I'm told is all the bad things, like all the horrible things, right?
Yep.
That are gonna happen, right? I'm not told that I'm going to love my child as immensely as I do, right? I'm not told that I'm going to meet this secret society of humans and be part of this like really cool underground club that other people are not a part of, right? And learning about all of these different things my son has taught me. No one tells you those things. And the grief aspect is real. But to be able to work through that with somebody who understands that you're allowed to grieve while also loving your child more than you could ever express, you know, is so important. And so this year our gala is to raise funds to really work on that piece and being able to support our community in a more, you know, manner. I was hoping the word would come, but it didn't. So better manner.
That's beautiful. So leading up to that, so that's fantastic, and you're doing the gala,
Yeah.
April 29th. And then how did the TED Talk come about? How did that
Yeah.
subject on and talk about
Man. So I do a lot of presenting, TED talking. So my 3 goals of last year, you know, or last 2 years, I've wanted to write a children's book, do a TED talk, and I wanted my son to get his canine companion. And all 3 of those things I sort of put out there into the universe. I let people know that was something I was interested in. But out of nowhere, a friend I hadn't talked to in a long time, we reconnected at like an event of sorts. And she said, "Hey, you know, have you ever thought about doing a TED talk?" And I was like, yeah, actually have. And she's like, "I know someone, I might be able to, let me see if I can get you connected." And so, she connected me with the organizers, and I sent in my application, and they accepted. And so I just gave my 7.5-minute talk. It's actually on the TEDx Sonoma County website right now, the whole long show of all of the amazing people I got to speak with.
I'm looking it up right now.
Regular, my personal one will, you know, Big Ted has to look at it and edit it and make sure it's okay. And then it will go up on the, you know, the TEDx site eventually. But my speaking on the one you're looking at, my speaking part comes at like 3 hours and 34 minutes. I was the second to last presenter.
Wow. What was your subject? You can share.
Yeah, my tagline is, "You don't know what you don't know until you know." And so I shared the story of my mindset shift, with not only people with disabilities, but particularly in education, and how school is the first community outside of the home where kids and people begin to learn what we think of them. And our current unwritten disability curriculum states that people with disabilities belong over there. And so we need to really work on that mindset shift.
Yeah, that's great. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We used to say that, you know, there's a part of the realm of thought is we know what we know, and then we definitely know what we don't know, right? Because I don't know brain surgery. I clearly don't know that. But then the rest of the sphere is covered by all those things that we don't even know.
Right.
So, it's so brilliant that that's the thing. And definitely children, you know, in the special needs community, the first thing they feel in the socialization component at school is exclusion.
Yeah.
Right. Separation, you know, stigma of having an aide walk them through the hall or needing some additional help and some support. So, that's definitely a challenge for a lot of our families. And sometimes the parents don't even realize the anguish their children are going through when they're dealing with a lot of that stuff. So amazing.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. I'm very proud.
That's awesome. And you wrote a book.
And I wrote a children's book. It's called Want to Play. And it features my daughter. What's really cool is I had written it like maybe 4 years ago at this point. And I just didn't have an illustrator. I didn't really know how to go about it. So I wrote it and just sat on it. And then my photographer friend was like, "Larkin, get it together, girlfriend. I will go out and I'll take pictures." And I was like, "But I'm picturing like cartoon picture-y type things." And so she we went to a park with local disabled children. We took pictures, and they're in the book. So it's like actual human beings in this book. And it talks about her going around with the tagline of, when you're not sure what to do, just smile, say hi, and follow their lead. And so she meets someone with an AAC device. She meets someone in a wheelchair, someone with who looks different, has different facial features, all sorts of different things. And so it has been incredible watching it come out. And then at the very end is a little surprise where the whole time, so she goes to the park with me and my son and my daughter, June Bell. And then June Bell's walking around the park, meeting all of these people. And at the very end, when she comes home and she's thinking about all of her friends, you finally see James for the first time. And you realize how she's able to do that, why the mom has that. And they sit on the couch and he says, hey, sister, he signs it to her because he uses sign language, want to play? And she said, of course. So I just followed his lead, or whatever the ending is. I can't remember. But
that's beautiful.
Thank you. It was amazing to have it finally out there in the world. And so it's available on Amazon. We also have some for anyone local. We have local pickup available as well.
That's fantastic. Amazing. So you've accomplished those goals.
Yeah.
Now what?
Oh, I got more goals.
What are some of those? Let's put out in the universe.
All right. You want to hear my next thing?
All right. Sure do.
Yeah. All right.
Written a book. TED
Hold
Talk.
on. Hold on a second. Here we go.
Okay. We got a canine support.
She's just sleeping right over there, waiting for James to get home.
What breed is she?
She's a yellow lab. She's the best.
Love the lab.
Yeah, she is just the best little human dog. She's the only one in the house that actually listens to me, if I'm being honest. So my next goal, and I'm hoping that this is going to come to fruition. My next goal is to have a community of belonging here. And what I mean by that is we've been going out into schools and doing presentations, but what I would love is to have the people come to us. So my vision would be to have a large scale inclusive playground. And on that playground, also have have our building that is like a learning lab where we can offer different sensory experiences, different disability experiences, maybe offer opportunities for teachers to come in and realize when Jimmy sits down to do math and he's sitting next to the air vent and that air vent kicks on, that's when the behavior starts. So maybe it's not that he's having trouble with math. Maybe he's hypersensitive to noise or air or whatever, right? So allowing people to actually understand things that they don't, right? You don't know what you don't know. But so teachers and students, maybe having some sort of what are those lock-in places you get locked in and you have to find your way out? Escape rooms, yeah. Having an accessibility room where teachers or school or whatever people come, sixth graders, middle schoolers, high schoolers, and they have this room and they need to design a room that is accessible to these 3 types of things that need accessibility access. And so, problem solving skills. Having a garden on that land where adults or teens with disabilities who are interested in gardening can come and tend to the garden and learn about plants and nature. And then perhaps maybe having a farm to table little cafe there where maybe they make the lunches for the people coming in who are coming in to learn and hear our presentations, play on the playground. I got big dreams.
That's beautiful.
I don't have any money, but I'm going to find it somehow.
That's a good reason to raise some capital right there.
Right.
And, people don't realize, when you go to an event like a concert or go to a stadium to watch a baseball game or something, how much stimulus we all are bombarded with.
Yeah.
Traffic. I live in downtown Los Angeles, and it's constant noise.
I could never do that.
And how that wears on you. And, the idea of noise canceling headphones that, frankly, even those of us that are considered neurotypical would benefit from having noise canceling headphones, like to be able to have some empathy to understand what others are going through,
Yes.
and trying to solve or figure out, it could be so impactful what you're saying. You could be talking about somebody who maybe wants to open a restaurant sometime in the future. Now they've got an awareness of what they've got to be thinking about to serve everybody in the community, be inclusive.
Right.
That's a great dream. I can get behind that. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that. I love
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah,
I'm
Shawn.
excited. It's gonna happen. I just have to figure out how. But I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know how any of this happens. So here we are.
Right. Hey, listen.
It keeps going. So it's gonna happen.
The universe responds to the
Figure it out.
power of your thought, right? To how many employees do you have in your company, by the way, right now?
Me and my assistant, and then we have our nonprofit consultant. We are going to start looking for a development director. So we're starting to kind of get to the place. Our presenters are all volunteer at the moment, just because of the laws in California with contractors.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're still, I mean, we're having some big growing pains. And how do my assistant is incredible, and she keeps everything neat and tidy and all of this, but how do we maximize her hours to make sure everything gets done? But also, like, we only have so much to be able to, and it's like all of these business things that I'm still learning and trying to figure out. And so it's definitely all.
It's your next adult book.
Where is the adult book? Where is it?
How to turn your nonprofit organization to a successful business.
Yeah.
By the way, nonprofit.
That's the actual title right there. Where's the adult? How to turn your nonprofit business into a successful business.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's going to be, you're going to be able to find it. It's coming. So, but I love the idea. I love the concept. And I think it's definitely something that, again, it's how we connect, right? And it leads to inclusion. So I think that's beautiful. That's amazing. Anything else you want the audience to know, people to know about, kind of what you're doing, what you guys are up to as an organization?
I love sharing stories on our social media. We're all different. We all have different experiences. And so if anyone is ever interested in sharing their story, we have our Facebook and our Instagram. And so both of those are important to me because I love to continue to learn. There's so much out there to learn. And I think my main thing that I would love for anybody listening is really, if you want to learn about disability and learn how to be a good human to disabled humans, really just following those disabled adults and learning from disabled adults how we can, as a society, best serve them and our whole community, right? I mean, yesterday we did a presentation, or maybe it was Monday, who knows what day, someday there was a day
I hear you.
at some point recently we were talking to a bunch of teachers and we shared the picture of the curb cutout, right? Talking about how like that was made for people in wheelchairs to have access to walking around. But who else benefits from that? We have people with walkers, people pulling suitcases, bikers, runners, all of us benefit from that one little accommodation. So when we're building new parks, why are we still putting bark in parks? Why do we not listen to disabled adults who are in wheelchairs who have had access issues? That's my final thing.
I love that. And that there's an organization that based in Palo Alto that has been building inclusive
playgrounds.
Parks.
Yeah, Magical Bridge?
Magical Bridge.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal. We had them on our podcast last year or something. So to your point, there are people out there trying to build some areas of inclusion. So that's a good way to. And by the way, it may make sense for you to connect with those folks.
Yeah.
As well. Talk about.
Yeah. They're on my spreadsheet of things.
Beautiful. They're great gals. Great.
Yeah.
Folks.
I think that one thing to get out of this is that it's important to know how you're going to accomplish something. If you have an idea that you're going to do something worthy, especially if it's meant to benefit others, benefit mankind, make the world a better place, starting with your community. But just as, if not more important than the how, is the why. And the fact that you're where you are and accomplished what you have so far is a great example of it, because you can tell us why you're where you are. You can tell us why you even started on that journey. But as you said, you're not even sure of how to tell us how, because
Right.
it's not as important. It matters going forward, but
Right.
it's not as important as the why. So for anybody out there that has an idea of the path that they want to build between where they are and the purpose that they're trying to find, just know that why is more important than virtually anything else.
Agreed. Just live with your heart and don't be afraid to try something new.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And I never even mentioned, I can't believe we didn't, you know how we got started with our title was Just Two Moms. Why did we?
That's right. You did tell us that.
What are we doing here?
Well, we're out of time. Thanks, everybody. Just kidding.
So tell us that. So yeah, because so a Common Ground Society is you, and you have a partner. And okay, tell us about the Just Two Moms.
How that's how it all started. My co-founder Jessica and I were like just two moms trying to make a difference. We weren't a nonprofit for 2 years. We were just moms in the community doing these presentations, hosting these family meetups, and she still runs our family meetups. She's still very much a part of our community. But when the pandemic hit, she had to take a step back from presenting and stuff like that. We started, our title on Facebook was Just Two Moms. Our business cards was Just Two Moms. And then that was already taken. So we chose Common Ground Society.
That's awesome. All right. So we have
that explains that.
For Just Two Dads. That's something as cool as Common Ground.
So funny.
And what's Jessica's full name again?
Jessica Hunter.
Okay, Jessica Hunter. Shout out to much delayed props to Jessica Hunter. We're sorry, Jessica.
Pizzo.
Jessica, I tried to tell her early on. I don't know why she waited so long, Jessica. I don't know why she waited so long to bring it up, but
I know.
Everything about what we do is about raising our consciousness. We were just having a conversation last night where I was talking about, there's things that will occur to you at a time that when they do, you'll wonder how it was impossible to not smell them because they were under your nose the entire time.
Right.
But speaking of making the world a better place, we're at that point now where in the show, we will ask the following question. Our ability to make the world a better place is tied to our ability or willingness to make ourselves better. So with that in mind, give us just one example of a thought or belief that you once felt to be true really strongly, but no longer believed to be true.
I mean, my thought as a teacher was I couldn't teach kids with disabilities, right? They belonged in a different class. I was not capable of teaching neurodiverse kids. And I no longer believe that to be true.
Love that. Simple.
Fantastic.
Like one of, I'm sure many, a lot of us have many, but that's beautiful because it's awareness.
Yeah.
So Larkin, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your story with us and amazing James and June Bell. I love that. Want to thank everybody for listening in. For those of you who've made comments or catching us on our YouTube channel after the fact. Of those who've catching us on our podcast, thanks for listening in. WSTX AM Radio family audience, thank you so much for having us be part of your day. Sean Hall, appreciate you. He hit us with that 50-minute mark, like he's right on it, which I love. And thank you to Billy Footwear for again providing such amazing products for our community. Yeah. Larkin, this has been an awesome experience. It's so funny because I want to say I'm so proud of you, which is not really, but I'm proud of the work that you were doing.
Thank you.
The fact that you took your situation and converted it into something that's going to benefit so many people. So thank you for your contribution to our community and your contribution to the world. And we wish you a tremendous amount of luck, not only with Common Ground Society, but also in your gala and in your future endeavors of building that lab. Yeah. That's amazing. I always say at this point, as we kind of lead towards our sign off, that right now, and I think today is a perfect example. Today on International Women's Day, empathy and love is always important. Seems to be more important these days. Be empathetic You don't know what the other person's going through or what somebody else is going through. So rather than be judgmental, have some empathy, know that they're going through something and ask questions as opposed to make judgments. We all need a little empathy and understanding. And if you see the world through the lenses of love, the world's just a much better place. I love your story about Want to Play. I love that book idea. And I think that that's so beautiful, and how you've wrapped it all up and included the children is amazing. So,
Thank you.
More of those. Thank you for the contribution that you're making. I'll throw it over to Shawn to close this out, but thank you, Larkin. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you.
Again is not a word. Again, a great thank you to Larkin for the time spent here today. And just know that there's so much beauty when, in us being able to connect with each other, as people. Continue to ask yourself the very same question that we asked of Larkin, which is, think of one belief that you once felt strongly, but no longer believed to be true. That marks our ability to grow. Remember that everybody needs to be seen, needs to be heard, needs to know that they matter, and needs to know that they're loved. There is such a thing as special needs, is probably more accurately special accommodations, because everybody needs the same thing. We all need to be seen, heard, and know that we matter and that we're loved. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time to tune in, whether you've done so live or after the fact. All the links are in the show notes with regard to Larkin's organization and her book. And stay tuned, because we're going to be sharing with you our information regarding our men's group for men who are dads or caregivers to those with special needs. I love what we do. I love this opportunity and this platform. Wherever you are within the sound of our voice, thank you so much, and we love you.
We love you. I hope I pushed the right
Thank you.
button. Thanks, Larkin. Bye.